Welcome to Quail's Knitting Nest. My name is Joy, and this is my nest. Today I want to start by telling you about this little shawl that I made. This is called Simple Green. It's very simple, it's small, it takes one hank of yarn. It has alternating garter stitch and then like a mistake rib band. And then another, it alternates back and forth down, and then it finally ends with the mistake rib band. Probably hard to see. There, I think you can see it. The pattern Simple Green is by Anna Sudo, and it was originally done in a solid green yarn, which I guess is why it's called Simple Green. But it's a perfect one ball project. Very simple, easy to do, and I made it to warm up the back of my neck. So it's perfect for that. It sits just a little bit down and covers up the back of my neck. I wear it turned over to give it that shawl collar kind of look, and it keeps me nice and cozy. It is a little bit short, so I could wear it like that, but I don't usually. I forgot to bring, I have a magnetic pin, and I'll just pin it like that, or I'll bring it all the way around and pin it in the back for when I'm really cold and it snuggles up. So I'm happy with it. The yarn is 50% merino and 50% alpaca. It's Manos del Uruguay. It's called Dos Tierras. And at first, I found it to be a little bit scratchy on my neck, but I think I've gotten used to it. I've worn it enough that it feels normal now. So that's good. Now this week, the new issue of Interweave Knits came. This is Winter 2021, and it's called Victorian Revival, or it says Victorian Revival on the cover, but then on the inside, they call it Victorian Gothic. Here on the inside, it's Victorian Gothic. And the pattern inspirations are all Gothically inspired, whether it's from literature or architecture or whatever the designer wanted. And there is a nice article in the beginning called The Art of Darkness, and it talks about, and that's a great picture too, that lady in the window well with her knitting, talks about the history of the word goth or gothic, where it comes from, how its meaning has evolved through the ages. And then each designer took that theme and went with it for their own designs. Another good article in this issue is called Controlling Ladders. Now you can get ladders when you're knitting with double points, or you can get them in cable work, which is the focus of this article. The woman who wrote it designed this cabled cape here. And sometimes when you work cables, when you switch from the last knit stitch to the first purl stitch, you'll get a ladder. Just like you do when you switch between needles on double points, sometimes you'll get a ladder. So she gives you very good information on what to do if that happens to you, how to fix it. Good article. Now overall, this is not my favorite issue of Interweave. It may be just because Gothic styles are not my style, or it could just be the patterns that came this time. But not only is it styled in that, I don't know, it's sort of ornate, I guess I would call it. When you think of a cathedral, you think of there's so much going on. There's so much to look at. It's so ornate. And most of the designs in this issue are like that. Also, it's photographed dark. All the backgrounds are dark, and many of the designs are in a dark yarn as well, which is not my favorite thing. I find it to be hard to see what's going on when you have dark on dark. But I do have two in here that I do like. It's interesting, they're both wraps, and I'm not a big wrap knitter. But one of them is called Lucy Westerna's wrap. Part of the reason I like it is the color. I just love that color. And part of the reason is the stitch pattern. It's a lace pattern reminiscent of like a cathedral arch. But not only that, but it also has cables entwined in between for like the pillars. I think it's really interesting. Here's an overall shot, but you can't really see the details in there. It's very pretty. And then the other one that I liked is called the Saint Mocker. Mocker, M-A-C-H-A-R, Saint Mocker wrap. So this is another wrap. And I'm a sucker for almost anything stranded. And I do like this design, and it's that same burgundy color that I love. So that's another one that I like. The rest of the issue, nah. I could take it or leave it. In fact, I would probably leave it. But I do like those two things in there. I am working on the Affinity pullover, which I mentioned at the end of the last episode by Patty Lyons. And it is a design that has all kinds of cables in it. I started by working a sleeve, because I like to do a sleeve as a swatch. You can see the cables there. I decided, because these are pretty simple cables, 2x2 or 2x1, or there's no heavy, intricate cabling going on here. So I decided to do them without a cable needle. And I will insert a little tutorial here. I've described how to do a cable without using a cable needle. I'm working on this Affinity sweater by Patty Lyons. The front of it and the back are covered with cables, and the sleeve has this one cable pattern up the center of the sleeve. I am working these cables without a cable needle, so I thought I would show you how to do that in this short tutorial. Here's my second sleeve. I'm just getting started on it. And I have a cable coming up here. Okay, I'm at the spot where I need to cross the cable. Now I'll show you a left cross first. When you use a cable needle, you would normally slip the first two stitches off, and for a left cross you hold them to the front. Then you knit the next two off the needle, and then you knit the next two off the cable needle. And there you have the stitches coming from the right crossing to the left, a left cross. Now to do that without the cable needle, we'll just take these off and start over. Remember that when you are cabling, you are simply knitting the stitches out of order, out of the order that they are presented on the needle, and you're changing it into a new order. So I want the stitches on the right to cross to the left. I want to knit the second two stitches before I knit the first two stitches. When you knit without a cable needle, what you do is you rearrange the stitches first and then you knit them. So to do that, because I'm going to knit the first two stitches second, and the second 2 stitches. First, I'm going to take my right hand needle and slide it into the back of the second 2 stitches. And as you can see, by sliding it into the back, that leaves the first 2 stitches to the front, which is what you want for a left cross. So I'm going to slide all 4 of them off the needle at once, pinching the first 2 so that they don't go anywhere. So I slide those off, and then I'm going to capture the first 2 back on the left hand needle, and then return the other stitches to the left hand needle. So now the stitches are already crossed, and I simply knit them as they are presented. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you have your left cross. Now let's try it for a right cross. Take off the 4, put them back on the needle. All right. Now for the right cross, I want the second 2 stitches in the front and the first 2 in the back. So instead of going behind, I'm going to go in front because I want these 2 stitches to be in the front. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide all 4 stitches off the needle and then capture the ones that are loose on the left hand needle and return the other stitches also to the left hand needle. Now the stitches are already crossed to the right, and then I simply knit them as presented. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there is my right cross without a cable needle. I hope this is helpful for you. Okay, so I mentioned that I worked the sleeve first. So I have 2 sleeves done. They have not been blocked, so it's really hard to see what's going on because the stockinette rolls like crazy. But it starts here at the cuff, and it gets wider and wider and wider up to the armhole, where it attaches to the main part of the sweater. And then the cap gets smaller and smaller. And then at the very top, there's a little saddle piece, which will go right over the shoulder top and connect to the neck. So I have my 2 sleeves finished. Interesting, I started to watch all the videos that she included with the sweater class, and in one of them she talked about a sloped bind off. She was using that in context of shoulders, but I find that it worked with the sleeve cap as well, because at the top of the sleeve I bound off 3, bound off 3 more, bound off 3 more, and then bound off 6. So it's a stair-step kind of situation, like the same as what you would get at the top of the shoulder. Now I have my own little method for a sloped bind off where I simply slip the first stitch without knitting it to help it look less jagged, less stair-step like. But she adds another wrinkle to it. She not only slips the first stitch, but when she's coming back, she turns before the last stitch. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on that too. But so I would purl to the end of the row, turn, slip the first stitch. She purls to 1 stitch before the end of the row and then turns. So it's like a double, and it's probably very hard to see, but this is my sloped bind off here, which is ever slightly so steppy. I mean, I think it's fine. But then I did hers on the second sleeve, and wow, it's even smoother. Very nice. It'll make it very easy for seaming. So I have my 2 sleeves done, and I just started the back. So I have 2 inches of ribbing, and there are transition rows where you transition from the ribbing into the cable pattern that's on the back of the sweater. So I've done those, and now I'm ready to start the main knitting of the back. And the back is always the biggest piece. It always takes the longest. So I'll get working on that. As I look at it here, it seems really wide. But it's for my husband, it's not for me, so. All right. Here in Pennsylvania, our travel restrictions are getting tighter because COVID cases are escalating again. Much worse than it was in the spring already. I hope things are okay where you are. I hope that you and no one that you know have gotten it, or especially even died from it, which would be tragic. I know a few people now who have had it, and my neighbor's mother did just die from it a couple weeks ago. It's very sad. So be safe. Let me know how you're doing down in the comments. If you have any questions about anything, what I'm working on, what I've made, whatever, let me know down in the comments. And happy Thanksgiving. Bye-bye.